I taught my neighbor's daughter how to drive. She crashed my car and fled. Her mother said, "That's what insurance is for. Don't blame a child." The police said it was civil. But I knew something she didn't. 3 days later, I showed up in court holding a copy of. I live in a neighborhood just outside Raleigh, North Carolina. It's mostly quiet. Families, retirees, a few single people like me. I keep to myself. I do yard work on Sundays, wait at the mailman, and mind my business. I've lived here for 10 years without a single problem. Then Dana moved in across the street. She came with her daughter, Cammie, and too much noise. Dana's loud. She parks crooked, talks on speakerphone outside, and never once returned a trash bin on time. But I didn't care. I don't need to like my neighbors. She moved in 2 years ago. Cammie was maybe 15 then. Now she's 17, and if I had to describe her in one word, it'd be entitled. Always has the latest phone, always rolling her eyes, and I've never once seen her say thank you to anyone. A few weeks ago, Dana came over while I was carrying groceries in. She smiled like we were old friends and said, "Hey, quick question. Do you think you could take Cammie out for some driving practice? I just can't deal with her behind the wheel. You seem like you've got patience." I should have said no. I'm not her dad. I'm not a driving instructor. But she caught me off guard, and I didn't want to be rude. So I said, "Sure, I guess I can help." First lesson was fine. Just a loop around the neighborhood. She was nervous and kind of stiff, but nothing alarming. Second time, we went a little farther. She almost missed a stop sign but slammed the brakes in time. I gave her tips, tried to be calm. Third time? That's when it all went to hell. We drove out to a quiet 2-lane back road where teens usually practice. Not much traffic. I told her to take a left turn. She paused for a second, then cranked the wheel like she was trying to impress someone. Problem was, she didn't check for traffic. There was a truck coming. The truck swerved and missed us by inches. She panicked, overcorrected, and we smashed right into the guardrail. Hard. The airbags blew. There was smoke. My chest hit the seatbelt. My ears rang. My nose started bleeding. I looked over at her. She was frozen for a second, then threw the door open and ran. Didn't say a word. Didn't ask if I was okay. She just ran into the woods off the road and disappeared. I sat there, dazed. My hands were shaking. I grabbed my phone and called 911. Told them everything. The dispatcher kept asking, "Are you alone?" And I kept saying, "No." She ran. The driver ran. Cops showed up maybe 10 minutes later. They looked at the damage, wrote down statements, but when I told them she was driving, they said, "Well, if you gave her permission, it's a civil issue, not criminal." I said, "She fled the scene." They shrugged. Technically, no one's pressing charges. There's no criminal offense if you gave her the keys willingly. I could feel my blood boiling. I had a busted car, a bloody face, and no one was being held responsible. I tried calling Dana that night. No answer. Texted her. "Your daughter ran from a crash. I need to talk to you." Nothing. Next morning, 9:15 a.m., she knocked on my door. Not with concern. Not with apology. She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her. She said, "Can we talk?" I said, "Sure." She leaned against the doorframe and said, "Look, I heard what happened. Cammie's really shaken up. I get that you're upset, but that's what insurance is for." I stared at her. She kept going. "She's a kid. She made a mistake. Don't turn this into a whole thing. It's not like anyone died." I said, "She ran, Dana. She didn't call 911. She didn't even check if I was alive." She scoffed. She panicked. "Wouldn't you at 17? "No," I said. "I wouldn't crash someone's car and run like a coward." She rolled her eyes. "All right, well, it's not like you can press charges. You let her drive, didn't you?" So this is between you and your insurance company now. Don't try to dump your anger on a teenager. She walked away. And I just stood there. Jaw clenched. Heart pounding. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. Because something clicked in my head. She assumed I didn't know anything. She assumed I'd just file a claim, eat the deductible, and move on. But I had something she didn't know. A dash cam. One of those cheap Amazon ones I installed last year after someone hit my bumper in a parking lot and drove off. I never mentioned it to her. Never thought I'd need it. I pulled the footage that night. It showed everything. Cammy taking the wheel. Her making that turn. The truck swerving. The crash. Her face as she jumped out and ran. All of it. And more importantly, she wasn't even wearing a seatbelt. That alone was enough to scare any lawyer. So I printed it all. Copied it to a flash drive. Pulled my insurance policy, medical bills, car repair estimates, and everything else I needed. 3 days later, I walked into small claims court and handed the clerk a folder. Inside was the crash footage, medical costs, and a list of what I was suing Dana for. Total, $8,976.43, but it wasn't about the money. It was about what was going to happen next. When Dana got served with the court notice, I saw her outside pacing. She was on the phone, probably with a lawyer. I didn't wave. She didn't look at me. But her face was red, and I could tell she didn't expect this. She came over that evening. Knocked again. I didn't answer the door right away. I waited. Let her stand there a little. When I finally opened it, she didn't waste time. "You're seriously suing me?" she snapped. I nodded. "Yeah." She looked like she wanted to scream. "You're insane. You're going to drag a teenager into court because of a little accident?" "No," I said. "I'm holding you responsible because you knew she wasn't ready, and you told me to deal with it." She stared at me. "This is harassment. I'll countersue. I'll say you pressured her to drive." I said, "There's a camera in the car, Dana. It recorded everything." She was smiling before the crash. Laughing. Talking about skipping school. That's not someone being pressured. She froze. I could see it hit her. She didn't know about the dash cam. I shut the door before she could say anything else. That night, Cammy's older cousin, a girl maybe in her 20s, knocked on my door. She looked embarrassed. Said her name was Layla. "Look," she said, "Cammy told me what happened. She wasn't supposed to be driving that day. My aunt told her to lie if anything went wrong. Said to blame you." I just stood there. She looked down. "I'm sorry. I just thought you should know. She's done this before. Took my mom's car once and hit a mailbox. They covered it up." That explained a lot. Court date came. Dana showed up in a suit 2 sizes too small, looking pissed. Cammy was there too, chewing gum like it was a joke. The judge asked for my side. I handed over the footage, the bills, and the printed texts. I didn't need to say much. The video said it all. Dana tried to interrupt. Said I gave permission. Said it was just a mistake. Said I was exaggerating. Then the judge asked why Cammy ran and didn't report it. Dana started to speak for her. The judge cut her off. "Let the minor answer." Cammy shrugged. I got scared. Whatever. Judge didn't like that. 10 minutes later, judgment was made. Dana was ordered to pay the full amount. No appeal. But the real hit wasn't the money. It was what came next. Turns out, insurance doesn't like it when you hide things. Especially not footage like mine. Her provider dropped her policy. Cammy's learner's permit got suspended for a year. And her name, not Dana's, got flagged with a crash and flight note in the DMV system. I thought that would be the end of it. But 2 weeks later, I saw something that made me realize Dana wasn't done. 2 weeks after the court ruling, I noticed something strange. It started with my mail. I didn't get any for 4 straight days. Then, suddenly, 5 envelopes were stuffed into my box, bent and damp like they'd been sitting somewhere. One was already opened. I called the post office. They said there was no delay on their end. That's when I got suspicious. I checked my doorbell camera footage. On the second day I'd missed mail, it showed Cammy standing by my mailbox just after 3 p.m. She looked around, reached in, pulled something out, and walked off. I saved the footage. Called the police. They sent an officer over, who took a report but said again, it's minor. She's underage. If it was a one-time thing, it's a warning. I said, this isn't over. You don't get it. And I was right. Because it didn't stop there. Someone poured a line of sugar along the edge of my garage door. It wasn't a prank. It was bait. Ants showed up 2 days later, a whole trail into my tool shed. Then, 3 nights later, my tires were slashed. Not all 4, just one on each side. Subtle. But enough to strand me in my own driveway. I didn't have proof. No cameras in the back of the house. But I knew. I knew it was Cammy. Or Dana. Or both. I told the police again. Same response, no direct evidence. So I did something I didn't plan on. I called Layla. Cammy's cousin. She picked up, quiet, then said, I was wondering if you'd call. I said, it's getting worse. She sighed. That sounds like them. Dana plays nice in public, but she's mean when she thinks no one's watching. And Cammy, she's just like her mom, only sneakier. I said, do you know if they've done stuff like this before? She hesitated. There was a neighbor in our old town, older guy. They said he harassed them, but I heard them laughing about messing with him. Flattened his tires, called in fake noise complaints. He moved. I asked, can you write a statement? She paused. I'll think about it. I didn't push. But the next day, there was a typed envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a printed letter. From Layla. She detailed everything. The driving lie. The past harassment. Dana's history of insurance fraud claims that never stuck. Even how Dana bragged once about how easy it is to scare weak men. I took it straight to the police. The officer I met this time actually read it. He looked up and said, this might be enough to open a pattern of behavior case. It wasn't a promise. But it was something. And that's when I realized. Dana had spent her whole life treating people like pawns. But now someone finally played back. And I wasn't finished yet. A week later, I got a call from the detective assigned to the case. He asked if I could come down to the station. Said they had a few things they wanted to run by me. When I got there, he laid out a folder on the desk. You weren't kidding about this woman. Inside were public records. Old complaints. 3 past addresses. At each one, there was some kind of incident tied to Dana, all civil. All brushed off. In Florida, she'd accused her landlord of harassment after being evicted for noise complaints. In Georgia, she'd filed a restraining order against a coworker, then dropped it when it got to court. In both places, neighbors reported minor vandalism and disturbances that stopped only after Dana moved. The detective said, none of this proves anything alone. But it tells a story. I nodded. It's the same playbook. He leaned back. That letter from the cousin helps. A lot. Especially if she's willing to back it in person. I wasn't sure if Layla would. But I called her again that night. She picked up on the first ring. They asked if I'd come in, she said before I even said hello. I will. I'm sick of them. I said, you don't have to put yourself in the middle. She paused. I've been in the middle my whole life. Might as well be useful for once. So she did it. She gave a statement, backed up everything. And that's when things started moving faster. The police got a search warrant for Dana's trash, apparently legal if it's at the curb. They found torn-up envelopes with my name on them. sugar packets, a tire patch kit wrapper, and on one piece of ripped paper, part of a list. It had my name and two others. One was crossed out. They brought her in for questioning. I saw the squad car outside her house. I saw her in the back seat, staring straight ahead. The next day, the harassment stopped. No more trash, no more damage, no more smug looks from across the street. But I wasn't celebrating. Because 2 nights later, someone knocked on my door at midnight. It wasn't the police. It was Cammy. And she was crying. I didn't open the door right away. Cammy stood there, arms wrapped around herself, hoodie pulled over her head. She looked smaller than usual. No makeup, no attitude. Just a scared kid. I finally opened the door but didn't say anything. Just waited. She sniffed. Can I talk to you? Just for a minute? I stepped outside, closed the door behind me. She didn't look me in the eye. I didn't know she was gonna go that far. I swear. The sugar, the tires, I didn't even know until after. I stayed quiet. She went on. After the court thing, she got weird. Started drinking more. Kept saying you were out to ruin us. That you were dangerous. She made me write down names, yours, the cop who talked to her, my cousin. Said we needed to watch our backs. I asked, what did the list mean, Cammy? She shook her head. I don't know. But she said people were going to learn not to mess with her. That's when I got scared. Her voice cracked. She thinks the world owes her. She's been like that forever. When stuff doesn't go her way, she turns into something else. She told me if I ever testified against her, she'd make sure I ended up just like my dad. I frowned. What happened to your dad? Cammy stared at the ground. He left. Said he couldn't take it anymore. She told everyone he cheated. He didn't. He just stopped fighting her. There was a long silence. I'm sorry I ran that day, she said. I really am. I panicked. I wasn't ready to drive, and she didn't care. She just wanted it off her plate. I nodded slowly. Why are you telling me all this now? She finally looked at me. Because I heard her on the phone tonight. She's planning to leave. Pack up and disappear before anything else happens. She already called some guy in South Carolina. Said she'd get a new number, new job, start over. I stood still, heart pounding. If Dana skipped town, everything might collapse. The case. The civil judgment. Even Layla might back off if things dragged out too long. Cammy dug into her sleeve pocket and pulled something out. A thumb drive. I made a copy of her phone backups. Texts, voice memos. She records herself sometimes. You'll want to hear what she said about you. I took it from her. She looked terrified handing it over, like it was poison. I asked, where are you going now? She shrugged. I don't know. Maybe my cousin's. I just didn't want her to win again. I watched her walk away down the dark sidewalk, hoodie pulled tight, shoulders hunched. Inside, I plugged in the drive. The first file was named. Voice memo _3_24. I hit play. Dana's voice came through, sharp and cold. If that idiot across the street thinks this is over, he's wrong. I've dealt with worse. I buried worse. He doesn't even know the half of it. Then, a laugh. Short. Flat. Mean. And then she said something that made my hands go cold. I've been doing this my whole life. Change names, move towns, wipe it clean. People forget. The system forgets. But I don't. I hit stop. My screen reflected back at me. Pale, tense, locked in. This wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, I walked the thumb drive straight into the police station. I asked to speak to the detective on the case. When I told the desk officer what was on it, voice recordings, threats, plans to flee, they took it seriously. By noon, I got a call back. They'd listened. They had questions. By 3 p.m., they had a warrant. They picked Dana up just before dinner. This time, not just for questioning. They charged her with witness intimidation, attempted insurance fraud, and tampering with evidence. The mail tampering charge was still pending, but it was stacking. And there was something else. The detective called me later that evening. His voice was sharper now, focused. We ran Dana's voice against an open complaint from 2 years ago out of Gainesville, Florida, he said. Same story. Crash, minor. But a neighbor claimed she threatened him, said she was going to ruin him if he talked. I said, let me guess. No one believed him. He didn't answer that. Instead, he said, there's a missing person tied to her old address. Guy disappeared. Ex-boyfriend. It's probably unrelated, but she was the last person to see him. I felt my stomach drop. This was bigger than a car crash now. I asked, does Cammy know? He said, we're protecting her. She gave us enough to move forward. But we're keeping her away from the details for now. The next day, I saw a moving van outside Dana's house. But it wasn't Dana. It was a cleanup crew. Hired by the bank. She'd defaulted on her mortgage 2 months ago. The house was in pre-foreclosure. So that's why she asked me to teach Cammy. She knew she was running out of time. She wanted everything taken care of before she bolted, her kid, her debts, the mess. Cammy ended up staying with Layla. She didn't say much when I saw her last. Just nodded from across the yard. But there was something in her face that hadn't been there before, peace. I thought I'd feel the same. But I didn't. Not completely. Because late last night, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo. A grainy shot of me, outside my front door, talking to the police. On the back, in black pen, this isn't over. Not for you. No signature. No prints. But I knew that handwriting. I keep the photo in a drawer now. Not because I'm scared. Not even because I think she'll come back. I just need to remember the truth, that people like Dana don't stop because someone tells them to. They stop when someone finally sees them for what they are. And I think that's what scared her the most. Not the lawsuit. Not the cops. Just the fact that I looked her in the eye, and didn't look away.